Hey guys, I'm back to talk to you about some information I did learn at the Keto Summit. I figured I'd break it up into little bits. I know yesterday I dropped a bunch of information on you, and I wanted to talk to you about the Alzheimer's. So, this is something that's near and dear to my heart, as over the last 2 years, 2 years ago, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. Thankfully, she caught it early and she has slowed it down so far, and we haven't seen a huge progression. And I was surprised to find out that Alzheimer's has now started to be called either diabetes 3 or is more of a metabolic disorder. The other thing we learned, and all this information was presented by Amy Berger. She's a nutritionist, and you can check out her book. It's called The Alzheimer's Antidote. So go check out Amy Berger, read her book. She has all of the information, the research that stems what she's talking about. But I just wanted to give you guys some highlights that I learned and share the knowledge that I gained. So a couple things. One, that you start to develop Alzheimer's about 10 plus years, if not more, before you actually start to show symptoms. Yeah, isn't that crazy? So times in your life when that you're already starting to progress it. So by the time it starts to show symptoms, you possibly have had it for 10 plus years. So to me, that was like mind blowing to me. And the reason why taking care of your body and taking care of what you're putting in your body is important. It's a huge sign of that, because if we can get on it now and start to set ourselves up for success by eating proper food for our brain, why wouldn't we? So a couple things she talked about. First of all, here's a little information about the brain. So the brain uses 0.25% of the energy that the body makes. Out of the whole body, the brain uses 0.25%. So small little brain uses 1/4 of the total energy of the brain, right? We all know that it talks about where the brain uses glucose, right, for energy. And that's an important thing. So what's happening is, because I believe, and I'll check the figure and give it to you later, but there is something like 65% of the population in the US are insulin resistant without even knowing we're insulin resistant. Why? Because we have bodies that are fighting the fight for us. They are fighting the insulin resistance for us by balancing out the sugars, and we're playing this game, right? I was really surprised at that number. So that means even people who are thin and never had issues of diabetes in their life still are fighting the insulin resistance. Okay, how does that affect the brain? So in the brain, there's little neurons, and they have little fingers at the end, dendrites, right? And these dendrites and axons, they transmit information like this. So this neuron shoots to this neuron the information, and then it passes on. What happens as the neurons begin to degrade, they start to kind of close in and shrink. So when the synapses is passing information, things can get lost in this gap, versus when they're like this, there's a better linkage there. So totally brought that down to my level so that I could better relate it to you. But that's what goes on when Alzheimer's happens. So originally they thought it was a DNA thing, and so it was usually passed down in generations. That was a big part of what was causing Alzheimer's. And what they're saying now is the studies that they've seen is, even though if you APO4, I believe is the gene or the signaler that you potentially have the potential of getting Alzheimer's, even people who had that, who were eating keto and changing their life or changing the way they eat and their nutrition, they weren't. So they technically, we used to think if they had that, they were predetermined to get Alzheimer's. With a healthy nutrition that helped to combat insulin resistance, they didn't actually get Alzheimer's. So it kind of just proves the point that just because you have that little flag that says you're going to get it, doesn't mean you are if you take care of your body and you start now. I mean, you're talking 10 years out. I know I'm in my 40s, and 10 years from now, if I don't take care of myself now, I definitely could be worrying about that. So Amy Berger is a nutritionist who had a ton of information about why ketosis is, she called it brain fuel or brain octane, that ketones are brain octane. It's a longer, stronger fuel for the brain. The brain just operates better on that. And then, of course, when you're in ketosis, you're fighting insulin resistance, so that helps. But definitely go out there, check out her book, The Alzheimer's Antidote by Amy Berger, and Berger is spelled Berger. And she's a nutritionist. She's got a few other acronyms at the end of her name. She is a firecracker. If you can look up some YouTube videos from her, definitely do yourself a favor and do that. Let's fight this Alzheimer's that we're seeing more and more often. If we can pay attention to what we're putting in our body, we can help to fight this. There are awesome things that she suggests. Like if you can't get right into ketones or ketosis and you're not ready for that, there are like exogenous ketones. I know you guys have seen me talk about that because I use that as a daily supplement. Things like, because for me, I was like, okay, great. So my mom has got Alzheimer's. How do I help my mom? Because asking my mom who's got Alzheimer's or even her husband, and even without the Alzheimer's, they're older age. It's keto diet or the keto lifestyle, the keto way of nutrition, of eating, takes some learning, takes some tasks, and it can be difficult. So how do I package this up? And my mom lives in England. So how do I package this information up, teach her how to do it, and explain all that? And so what she had suggested is you start with things like, so there was this doctor who did this study. Her husband had Alzheimer's and he was beginning stages, early stages, but she put MCT oil on his oatmeal every morning. And she saw huge progress in him getting back mental clarity and all of that stuff. So she said, even if it's that your mom starts using coconut oil or adds MCT oil to what she's doing, that's going to help. And then exogenous ketones, have her drink a drink once a day. So guys, I'm just starting. This is just the iceberg of what this in this amazing book. Please do yourself a favor. YouTube Amy Berger, The Alzheimer's Antidote. Let's stop this dilemma in ourselves and our children. Let's get healthy, everybody. Love you guys. Remember, it takes a 360-degree perspective in any journey towards any goal. Love you guys. Any questions, post them below, and I'll also post a link to Amy Berger's book. Love you guys.